Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us here at the RTA for our first meeting of the new year. So this morning our invocation will be given by Pastor Chip Blackshear from First Presbyterian Church of Corpus Christi. Pastor.
Thank you. Would you join me in prayer? Oh, great God, our Heavenly Father, we pause this morning to confess that we are busy and distracted people. And so in the midst of our busyness, as we take up the business set before us today, we ask that you would stop our busy, anxious minds from wandering. Stop our hearts from desiring anything more than to know your will. Help your servants here to see their work as more than just the business of our city. Help them to see their work as loving your people. And so we take this moment at this beginning of a new year to ask your blessing upon this council. We ask your blessing upon their deliberations, upon their families. We ask that you'd bless their staff and all of our city employees. And God, we ask that you would bless this city that bears your name. We pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. And our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the Texas state flag will be led by Tara Montelongo. She is a senior at Veterans Memorial High School, a member of the Principals Advisory Team, and a CCISD Superintendent Student Ambassador. Tara?
Good morning, everyone. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Tara. City Secretary, Ms. Huerta, I'm sorry, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Council members Roland Barrera.
Here.
Sylvia Campos.
Here.
Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Michael Hunter.
Here.
Jim Klein.
Here.
Mike Leslie will be late. Everett Roy.
Present.
Dan Suckley.
Here.
City Manager Peter Zanoni.
Present.
City Attorney Miles Risley. Here. Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
Great, thank you, Ms. Huerta. Oh, would you like to go into the security briefing?
Sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the event of an emergency, we will exit the boardroom to my right, which is through that door. Proceed towards the west stairwell down to the first floor, where you will exit through the west side doors. Once outside, you will continue toward the clock tower adjacent to the transfer station. I will account for all the council members, and Assistant City Secretary Stephanie Box will be the last one out to ensure everyone gets out safely. 3 things to remember during an emergency. 1, please do not use the elevator. 2, please only return once the all clear has been given. And 3, if we need to shelter in place, we will do so in the west side stairwell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. We'll go to Section F, City Manager's Comments and Update on City Operations. Mr. Zanoni.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and members of the council, good morning. And welcome to our first City Council meeting of calendar year 24. So we have 2 items on the City Manager's report. The first one is about our 2023 United Way of the Coastal Bend charitable campaign. And this is really a great news story. And just some quick background, the city organization, all 4,000 employees annually are asked to contribute to the charitable campaign, making small or large contributions to benefit those in our community and really in our region that need help in numerous ways. And so I'm going to give you an update on the report this morning. And then with me this morning is our new, or the United Way's new CEO, beginning in February, Stephanie Jordan, and she'll come up and say a few words as well. So the City of Corpus Christi prioritizes meaningful giving by giving back to the community in its annual United Way of the Coastal Bend fundraiser. The 2023 charitable campaign lasted for 4 weeks. That was in the holiday time from November 13 through December 8. And so this is an excellent opportunity for the city to impact different organizations as the funds stay local. These nonprofit agencies managed by the United Way serve residences in Nueces, San Patricio, and 8 surrounding counties. The United Way supports 64 different organizations, different nonprofit organizations supporting education, health, and financial stability in underserved communities. So our city leadership and staff continue to meet our support, and they continue to meet my challenge to contribute in a meaningful way to benefit those in our community that need assistance. So in 2022, the city, this was 2 years ago, the city set a goal of $135,000. That was our goal as an organization to have the employees contribute to. 2 years ago, we raised more than $23,000 over the goal, so $158,000 is what we raised for those 64 agencies. In 2023, this last year, we raised the bar to $145,000, and I'm proud to announce that the city exceeded the challenge, and we raised almost $163,000, so $17,000 over this year's goal. You can see on the screen, and be mindful, it's kind of in the rearview mirror now, but this was during the holiday time when people were trying to save their money to buy gifts and food and that type of thing. So even with that, our employees surpassed the goal, raising $162,000 or pledging $162,000 to benefit our community in a way that is not done in other agencies. So when I was appointed city manager nearly 5 years ago, I challenged the leadership team and staff to support the United Way in a bigger way than what we had done prior to my appointment. The team listened, all employees have listened, and in the past 4 years, we have kept increasing our donations to the United Way, so that in the past 4 years, or the 5 years you can see here, we have through our payroll deductions or cash contributions, close to $700,000 to the United Way. So that is tremendous. I want to thank this year's executive leadership team. What we've done in recent years is, instead of having the Human Resources Department manage the United Way campaign, we ask a lead executive or executives to volunteer. And this year, Holly Houghton, the Assistant Director of IT, and Barb Miner, as well as Sheila Brown, both from IT, were instrumental in managing all the departments and their pledges. And so we want to thank them and thank the employees who participated to make a difference this year. Thank you very much, employees, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for being appreciative of this as well. So with that, I want to introduce Stephanie Jordan. She is the incoming president and CEO of the United Way. Stephanie, come on up. And she is here today just to say a few words about the United Way and the fundraiser. Just some quick background on Stephanie. She's been with the United Way for 5 years now, and prior to that had 30 years in the newspaper business, right, working at the Caller Times and then in Chicago. And she begins her new role as president and CEO in February. So,
the first time I've seen my title under my name, so thank you for
okay,
that. A little early,
great.
but I appreciate it.
We're always glad to be first here at the city, and we want to thank Libby Averett. She is the retiring CEO. She's held this position for 5 years, and but Stephanie's going to do a great job, and we have a great working relationship, and she's visited with many of our executives in the past several campaigns. So Stephanie, we're going to turn it over to you just to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us, Mayor and council members and Mr. Zanoni. We appreciate the city support. It's kind of funny standing in front of city employees when they already support this community so much professionally. The leadership has been fantastic. Every year there's a new team that heads up the campaign. Holly and Barb and Sheila all did a fantastic job. We get the opportunity to speak at every firehouse from the island all the way up to up north, Annabelle, talk to all those groups in water and utilities and municipal courts, IT, and the airport, and it's just tremendous hearing what they say, and the support that they give to the community is very, very generous. And we're just thrilled that this campaign has continued to take off, and appreciative of the support for the community. So thank you so much for your leadership, certainly Mr. Zanoni, and that on the leaders who work for you and their staff. It's been just tremendous.
Right. Thank you so much, Stephanie. We look forward to continuing to work with you.
Me too.
Yes. Mayor, is there any questions or comments for Stephanie before she?
No, that's very good.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you,
Thank you
Stephanie.
so much, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Great. So the second item, Mayor, on the city manager's report is timely because this coming Monday, we know is Martin Luther King Day. So the next item is an overview of upcoming events in conjunction with the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. On Monday, January 15th, it will be the 61st anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's iconic speech, I Have a Dream speech. So many on this city council, including the mayor, were instrumental in establishing the MLK Day as an official city holiday for the city of Corpus Christi. This year will be the third year that the city is commemorating it as a city holiday, giving employees time off to participate in some of these events. It was declared a federal holiday back in 1983. So in Corpus Christi, the 38th annual MLK Commemorative March will commence this year at the Nueces County Courthouse. The last year we had it at City Hall, so this year will be at the Nueces County Courthouse at 1901 Leopard Street. That's this coming Monday. The march will begin at noon. Marchers will gather at the Lipan Street entrance to the courthouse for a short program before the start of the march. And this year, because of some work being done at the church that we usually end the march at, the route will be slightly different, and we'll be ending at a new church called Mount Zion Baptist Church at 1605 Comanche Street. So the RTA will provide shuttle services from the church, Mount Zion Church, to City Hall after the march if somebody needs a ride. There's a map here. You can see kind of the courthouse and then the march down Comanche Street to the church. Now, the march is just one thing to commemorate Martin Luther King's life and his legacy. Multiple events will occur leading up to the march to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's life. And here this morning to further explain some of these events is Nikila Pradier. She's the president of the Corpus Christi alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And Nikila spoke last year, and she's here again this year, just to highlight some of the main events coming up that she and her sorority are instrumental in organizing for our community. Nikila.
Thank you, City Manager Zanoni. Appreciate it. Good to see everybody on the council again this year. We're very excited about the upcoming events to commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King, his life and his legacy. So before we get to the march, just quickly want to go over some of the other items with some of our collaborative partners here in the community. First, want to say thank you to the city again for always being very supportive of this event, no matter the location, helping us with promotion and things like that. We certainly appreciate it, and we really consider the city a valued partner, so thank you very much. So events leading up to the march will kick off on Saturday. The Corpus Christi Black Chamber of Commerce, along with Zeta Phi Beta Sorority and Phi Beta Sigma Sorority, will host a prayer breakfast and business mixer. That's going to be at Mount Zion Baptist Church, which, as Mr. Zanoni announced, is going to be the new ending location for our march this year. That'll be Saturday morning at 8. And then the NAACP local chapter will hold their Freedom Fund Gala Saturday evening at 6:30 at the Ortiz Center. On Sunday is where our sorority will pick up programming. We will have our annual interfaith prayer service to commemorate Dr. King's legacy as a spiritual leader also. So that's going to be at Brooks Worship Center Sunday, January 14th, starting at 6 o'clock. Brooks Worship Center is at 2101 North Port Avenue. And then Monday, the day of the holiday, our community partner YWCA will start off at the Nueces County Courthouse hosting a racial justice forum that starts at 10 o'clock at the courthouse in the central jury room. And then at that same location at noon, we'll have a short program ahead of our commemorative march that happens every year. That program should last no more than about 15 minutes, hopefully, and then we'll commence the march to Mount Zion Baptist Church. The Corpus Christi Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta is very excited to be bringing this march and this program into the community for the 38th year now. So we certainly invite everybody in the community to come, to attend, hopefully to learn, and to just kind of do some self-reflection. Most of our programming this year is going to center on the national theme of the MLK holiday, which is It Starts With Me. And I think it's very appropriate for something like that, because Mayor, you probably just spoke up a few years ago to, say we should be recognizing this as a holiday. You started with you. You advocated to see what you could do to go ahead and extend this legacy. So that's what we're asking people to do today as they, or this year as they attend these programs. Self-reflect, think about how it can start with you in matters of racial, social, economic, environmental justice to what we can do to better our community.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Nikila.
Thank you.
And as you can see, there are many events planned for not just the holiday, but the entire holiday weekend. This is very significant for our community. And if somebody didn't get that on the screen, they can always visit the city's website where there's a special page listing all these at cctexas.com and then /MLK. The entire calendar that Nikila just went over is listed there as well. So we look forward to seeing many of the council members at the march and some of these other events, as well as a lot of our city employees as well will be there. We have a nice banner that many of the city employees will hold so that we're recognized amongst the participants. So with that, Mayor and Council, that concludes the city manager's report for this morning, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. Let's see, Mr. Risley, I think we're going to go ahead and start public comment. Ms. Huerta, would that be a problem if it's 10 till? Yeah? Okay. Mr. Risley.
Citizens are authorized and encouraged to present their views to the council on city-related matters. However, such should be done in a factual, precise presentation, and questions of council or staff are inappropriate. Loud, boisterous, profane, or obscene language or behavior is not allowed.
Thank you, Mr. Risley. Individuals will be called upon in the order in which they signed up electronically. In-person public comment will be taken first, followed by virtual public comments. Corpus Christi residents will take precedence over non-residents. And for those commenting in person, I would like to remind everyone that a recording is being made of the meeting. Please speak into the microphone located at the podium and state your name and address prior to speaking. There are 2 opportunities in which you can make comment. The first is at this time, and the second is at the time that we actually hear the item itself. Please choose one. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes. Non-resident comments are limited to 1 minute. And for those commenting in person, there is a timer up here. It'll be on the dais by the city secretary that will give you the amount of time left for you to speak. Once you hear the buzzer go off, if you would please kindly wrap up your comment or sentence. We would appreciate that. If you have a petition or any other information that you'd like for us to have, please hand it to the city secretary prior to speaking, and she will hand it over to us. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Sean Flanagan.
Hi, my name's Sean Flanagan. I live at 4218 Herndon Street, and these are my own thoughts, no other organizations. Mayor and city council members, y'all got huge responsibilities. The decisions that you make reflect on everybody in Corpus Christi as well as on yourself. And that's why I was so glad that you did it today, and you do it every session. You have somebody pray, a minister, or some other religious figure, and ask for God's help in the decisions that you're about to make. And I think that's very commendable. In the Bible, Jesus says, and one of the few times he says this, there are dire consequences for those who would lead the children among us astray. Recently, you've been showing excerpts from books that are on the youth sections of our library that are designed to sexualize children. I don't think you can get any bigger definition of leading the children astray than the purposes behind the folks that wrote those books. You are to be commended, and that in spite some outlandish propaganda efforts by a small but very vocal elite group, you have appointed a group of folks recently to the library board who are humble enough take seriously their responsibility to the children and parents of the citizens of Corpus Christi that our libraries become once again places where materials that are not appropriate to children are not in children's sections. Therefore, it's my hope that any future applicants to the library board be asked by you all, prior to you voting on them, a simple question. And that question is If they think that there are materials that exist that are not appropriate for children, and if they do, how do you define those materials and how do you deal with them? That question needs to be asked everybody who needs to be on the board, regardless of their credentials, regardless of the organization they belong to. If they lack that moral guidance, that moral clarity to answer that question in a way that's satisfactory, they really do not have any business being on the library board. The library board does a whole lot of things, but this single issue about the children is one of the few issues that has repercussions all over Corpus Christi, on this world and the world beyond this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan. Carrie Meyer.
Carrie Meyer, 4401 Gulf Breeze Boulevard. I'm here to discuss the ongoing renovation at 4513 Gulf Breeze, where 5 old buildings are currently being renovated on the ground by a We Buy Houses Cash LLC. According to today's memo that you received from city staff, the city is treating this renovation project as minor work and issuing permits for general repairs. If instead, the city's floodplain administrator determined that this project is a substantial improvement, the buildings would need to be elevated up out of the floodplain. North Beach is a FEMA velocity zone where all new construction and all substantial improvements must be elevated on tall pilings. These regulations save lives and protect neighboring properties. By allowing these blighted buildings to be rebuilt on the ground, the city is leaving FEMA on the hook for the bill that will come due when these houses are damaged by floodwaters. Today's memo states that the city has determined that all costs were in line. I wish I could find someone to completely gut and then rebuild a blighted cottage for just over $8,000 in materials and labor. Today's memo states that there were no errors or admissions on the owner's cost repair worksheet submitted for the renovations, yet I found both. For example, the value of Unit 4 is listed as $17,000 on the application and then $16,000 on the repair sheet. The Unit 4 repair costs are $7,000 on the application and $8,000 on the repair sheet. Those are errors. The cost to re-engineer and rebuild the sagging foundation, piers, and beams underneath Unit 4 and 5 were not included on the cost list submitted, yet those repairs are currently underway. Those are omissions. Mr. Zanoni and Councilman Klein have both visited the site and seen with their own eyes the blighted condition of the back 2 structures. So has Billy Lerma, who sits on the city's planning commission. To most people who have seen the original condition of these 2 blighted buildings and then see that list of repair costs, the numbers don't add up. Even just the cost of materials seems low, much less materials and labor. This entire project is being approved based on an incomplete list of low bid costs submitted by a licensed contractor whose license number is left blank on the application and whose phone is out of service. Yet he is the authority that the city is basing its floodplain permit on. If the cost reached just 51% instead of 47%, the blighted buildings would need to be demolished. So ensuring the accuracy of these costs is paramount. This is a precedent-setting project that will determine the future of development on North Beach. As our online petition requests, we are asking that the City Council review and reject what we believe to be the incorrect professional staff interpretation of the building permit application. To read our petition, please visit northbeachcommunity.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Pat, Craig?
Good morning, almost afternoon. I'm Pat Craig, 78414 is my area code where I live, zip code. I am a newly appointed library board member, and I want to thank you personally for appointing me. Those that voted for me, I appreciate that, and don't take it lightly. And I appreciate the opportunity to serve my community once again. While the local media overlooked some new appointees' advanced degrees, 2 media outlets even get my bachelor's degree wrong, I appreciate you taking seriously the statement in the city orientation manual that says, representation on special boards does include membership by average citizens because a profession must not be allowed to regulate itself. Corpus Christi has an amazing library system. I'm learning a lot. I look forward to working with, learning from, and continuing to benefit from those who support our libraries. The December Library Board meeting had an outstanding show of public interest, to put it lightly. Thank you for attending. I am sorry that so much negativity was thrown at so many, fueled by misinformation. I'll address one issue briefly, banned books. There is no such thing, and definitely not in the city or county. Repeating the narrative does not make it true, as most of you know. It's been propagated by at least one local organization, with prodding from more than one national organization. Words matter. Challenged does not mean banned. Even if a national organization that should know better builds a whole campaign around this false narrative. I am happy to report that no books have been banned or burned, and the libraries haven't been closed. The mandate from council, as I understand it, is to address material in our public libraries that is not age appropriate for minors. This can be accomplished by increasing parental and public awareness of such material, as well as evaluating the system that allowed its admittance. Once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. John Weber?
John Weber, 609 Naples Street. I will be addressing the mayor and city council regarding city-related matters within my constitutional rights, according to city attorney, section 5J. Happy New Year. I checked the reservoir levels on Sunday. It looks like we are down to 30.6%. Next slide. While driving on Sunday, I discovered a new car wash being built. This is occurring at the same time as we are inching closer to the next stage of drought restrictions. How many new car washes have been built since we started drought restrictions? Who is approving the building permits for these new car washes? For decades, we have had coin car washes at service stations, and car washes at H-E-B stores. I've never heard anyone ever complain there weren't enough car washes in the city. Why are any new car washes being granted building permits? Next slide. This car wash is 1 mile from the new one being built. It has been said they recycle their water. How much water gets recycled? Looking at this photo, it is plain to see much water is just running off into the street and the stormwater system. How much water does a car wash use every month? Next slide. This photo showing 10 locations of just one brand of car wash. We have more than enough car washes in our water distribution area. Next slide. Unlimited car washes starting at $21.99 a month. What does that mean, unlimited washes? Next slide. It means you can wash your car as often as you like. Obviously, this is giving people the wrong pricing signal for conservation of water. Council and staff, please consider a city ordinance to make it illegal for car washes to offer unlimited wash packages. There should be a charge for each car wash. They can still have pricing packages, like 5 washes for $21.99, but no longer should they be able to offer unlimited washes. It is much like some existing take-and-pay agreements the city has with some companies. These all need to be eliminated. Any agreement the city has should charge more for water when the usage increases. The city should also use smart rate design to reduce water usage. I would also like to thank the city manager for eliminating the markup on information requests. As always, have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Arturo Lima?
Arturo Lima, 317 People's Street, 78401. As someone who recently moved to Corpus Christi, I am often told by residents that if I live here for too long, I may develop asthma, allergies, and other respiratory complications. People have told me horror stories about how they develop severe allergies and asthma when they move to Corpus Christi. These are no doubt symptoms of pollution from heavy industrial presence. I decided to become informed on environmental factors that are affecting residents. No issue seems to be of more concern right now than desalination. Therefore, I read the 56-page AutoCase report on the impact of desalination in our region. I learned from this report that a single petrochemical facility known as Gulf Coast Growth Ventures uses 21% of all the water supplied by the city of Corpus Christi. I also learned from this report that even though the population of Corpus Christi and its residential water use is not expected to grow much in the next 30 years, water demand in our region will increase by 46% by the year 2060, primarily due to the industrial growth expected in our region. The city and proponents of desalination will tell you that the water from this desalination plant will be for the residents. That is not true. The water is for industry. Residential water use will not increase, yet residents will continue to be subjected to drought restrictions and fines, while these heavy polluters will be able to receive exemptions from these route restrictions. I also learned from this report that the city of Corpus Christi has applied for a $500 million loan to build a desalination plant, which will be paid back with our taxpayer money. All of this for the sole purpose of bringing more petrochemical corporations, steel manufacturers, and an ammonia plant to our community. This will continue to pollute our air, causing more respiratory problems to our residents and pollute our precious waters while lining the pockets of a few. They have promised these polluters water that they do not have, and they want us to pay the price with our health, our environment, and our tax dollars. These are only a few of the numerous concerns raised by the AutoCase report. It seems to me that there is a disconnect between the priorities of City Council and the needs of the people. Today, I am here for two reasons: to invite everyone who is watching to learn more about this issue and to ask City Council to put people before profits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lima. Alicia Casperides? Okay, sure. Maggie Peacock?
Maggie Peacock, 1773 Ennis Jocelyn Road. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend about last time I was rudely cut off from talking about Palestine because it's not a city issue. This is an extremely ignorant comment. First of all, Corpus Christi is home to a vibrant Palestinian solidarity community. In fact, there was a gathering and vigil this past weekend. It was so beautiful. There are so many beautiful people in this community, and I wish all of you saw that. Also, city councils all over the nation are voting to create resolutions calling for immediate ceasefire in Palestine. And as a city with one of the largest ports in the nation, a ceasefire resolution would be incredibly powerful. We are not and cannot be complacent. Our business as usual here perpetuates genocide over there. To quote information gathered by local environmental justice and Palestinian liberation groups here in Corpus Christi, desalination plants were proposed as a solution in Palestine due to their water crisis, but only after the oppressors destroyed their natural water supply in the first place. These desal plants now pose serious, significant, and ongoing negative impacts on available drinking water and the surrounding environment, with these negative impacts disproportionately impacting the indigenous Palestinian population. This sounds familiar. We know desalination here in Corpus Christi is not for the people. We know it's for industry, and we have proof that some of y'all who are so ferociously advocating for it now were at one point against it. What happened? Start putting people over industry. People here are suffering due to the ever-expanding fossil fuel industries, and we do not need more. For the love of God, Flint Hills just had another spill right in time for the anniversary of last year's spill where they poured 14,000 gallons of oil into our bay and were never punished for it. You all have the power to stand with Palestine and listen to the beautiful community members here in Corpus who want y'all to shut down desalination and hold destructive industry accountable. It's 2024, which is a big year, and y'all know why. Show up, listen. If you're actually there for the community, y'all would know that there aren't just a measly 12 people showing up. There are whole communities. There are dozens of people rallying for a just future. Show up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peacock. Adam Rios.
Adam Rios, 7301 Tangled Ridge Court, founder, owner, CEO of Pony Boy Skate Company. I always like to start by reading my mission statement, or the company's mission statement. Pony Boy Skate Clothing Company strives to create a brand with unifying principles and properties in a way that can take roots within a community. To the council, this is the first meeting of 2024. I say dagote. For 2024, my aspirations are good words, good thoughts, good actions, intelligence, creativity, that whatever lays ahead of us, let it be clear and coherent. Let us use our collective intelligence, whether it be generational, collective, or individual. If we seek clear and coherent thoughts, we might be able to create some clear and coherent solutions. My mantra, one of my mantras this year is going to be think, don't just believe. The keys to our future in terms of, I always talk about skateboarding and I don't shy away from that. Our skate parks, especially the new one being built at West Guth. I obviously have had a chance to talk with more kids in the community who skate and what their wants are. And basically it's simple, they just want access to goods and services. Clean goods and services. Clean air, goods and services. They're putting their hearts and their bodies into the sport. They are trying, and they are getting good not by accident, but on purpose. No one wants to experience the pain of falling over and over and over again. To experience that hurt, it takes a special individual to do this. But they accept the challenge, and they persevere. They try, and they try, and they try until they make it. And what I try and let them know is that's what life is. It's a whole bunch of tries until you make it. That's pretty reflective of what I think Corpus is as a community. We're trying and we're trying and we're trying, and eventually we'll make it. But it takes us all collectively to do that. I just want to remind everybody, if you want to see and experience more cultures in the community, there are two things happening this Saturday. There is the Walk to Bless Sacred Site at Ennis Jocelyn. A lot of the local Native community are obviously excited about that and also drawing attention to it. I also want to remind everybody that the Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History will be having a Native American Day this Saturday. Outside of that, I don't really have much to say. I'm hoping for a good 2024. I wish you all blessings. I would like to say this, though. I've got just a little bit of time. This is how sometimes things can get skewed. I talk oftenly when I'm up here about being a Native American and a proud Native American, also being raised a Christian. It's ironic that someone can come up to me after a council meeting or wherever and say, hey, I thought you said you were a Native American. Well, I am. Oh, well, because sometimes you talk about Christianity. Now, this is someone that some of y'all listen to from time to time. Thank y'all very much. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Rios. Flo East.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Happy New Year, and thank you all for serving. I want you to know I greatly appreciate it. I'm here today to personally invite you all to the opening ceremony of the Nueces County Junior Livestock Show. I have sent a transmittal, and some of you have responded, but I just wanted to come in person because I think it's that important. And I'm told by the city manager that he has a pair of boots now that he is going to wear. As you know, we started with our horse show. This Friday night we do commercial heifer, we have our cook-off, and then the real show starts the following week. We have 680 3, 4, 5 kids entered this year. It's going to be a great show. We want you to come out and visit with our buyers and have breakfast. And we're honoring 2 gentlemen this year, the late Don Ermis and, of course, the late J.J. Falcone, who passed away right after his graduation. And so it's going to be a great show. Everybody is so excited. We are ecstatic about the cold weather because we know animals love cold weather, and they do much better at a livestock show. So thank you again for all that you do. It's a thankless job many times, but our community, Flower Bluff, greatly appreciates everything. In closing, I have 1 second. I know that CCPD has been getting lots of calls on cattle that are getting out, and I'm working very diligently to resolve that issue, so I want Chief Markle to know that. I got to meet with one of the officers Saturday, and we managed to get the cattle back in. So it's kind of an ongoing process all day, every day. And Mr. Suckley is constantly, the cows are out. But they're not my cows, I promise. They're somebody else's cows.
I thought they were yours.
So we're working on that, and we are going to get it resolved. So I hope to see all of you on the 20th. With your booths and so forth. And if you'd like to judge at the cook-off, I'm sure you can call the extension show office, and they would love to sign you up. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Flo. Day Manley.
That sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Hi, my name is Day Manley, and I live at 6705 Fayroe Drive. I've lived in Fayroe Valley for over 50 years. I've been treasurer for the volunteer board of Fayroe Valley neighborhood for 7 years. I'm also that pesky lady that calls somebody almost every week asking that my potholes be filled or that my street be paved. But today I'm here to speak in support of Jeff Blackard and the Barisi Village TERS. Many of you know that our neighborhood has suffered through 10 years of litigation and delays of this project. There are very serious attempts to further delay this project with a political agenda that is not yet apparent. These delays are being made at the last minute by people who do not live in our neighborhood. Hopefully, the mayor and the council will not cave to the instructions that these people have doled out. The residents of this neighborhood have fought for this project, and we want to see it approved. We ask that you give your utmost attention to the approval for the Barisi Village TERS project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Manley. Nick Colosi.
Mayor, Council, my name is Nick Colosi, 13561 Community La Plata Court. I am the chairman of the board for the Riley P. Dog Park, and today we're here asking you to approve our new lease. It is run by a volunteer board. In the past year, we have formed a corporation. We live on donations. We have now a 501c3 project. Our accomplishments, we've put in benches, we've got toys and playground equipment. This spring, we're going to be putting up shade structures to make it more comfortable. We are not part of the park system where we run and we live on just donations. You in the morning will see 1 or 2 dogs waiting to get into the park when we opened at dawn before work. People will be there after work, and when we shut down at dawn, we will frequently have 4 to 6 dogs. On the weekends, we've had up to 12 to 14 dogs on a Saturday or Sunday playing. We present a great image. The public loves it. It is of no cost to the city. We just would like your cooperation. Let us continue keeping everybody happy. They think the city is almost part owner. We see no downside to renewing our lease. So we ask your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colosi. And for clarity, sir, you're referring to the Riley, correct, dog park?
At the end of White. At the very end of White County.
Yes, yes, yes. The Riley Dog Park, for the record. Thank you. John Hendricks.
Madam Mayor, I have a PowerPoint. Negative? Okay, in that case, I'll hold my fire and send it in. Maybe if y'all see it, you can head me off at the pass.
Well, I think they're checking, Mr.
Oh, okay.
Hendricks. Are they checking now? Hang on just a second.
That's not it.
That's not it.
No?
That's not it.
That'd be very professional.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Hendricks, we don't have it, so
Okay.
we'll distribute it to the council once we do receive it.
That's fine, sir.
Yes, sir.
It'll be on New Bayview Cemetery, so
Yes, sir, no problem.
keep in mind. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Hendricks didn't want it.
Well, Mr. Hendricks, did you want to speak, or did you want to wait for both? Okay.
You'll
All
wait?
right, I'm sorry about that.
What's he going to wait for?
Next week.
Yeah.
Next meeting? The next meeting? Okay, very good.
Okay, Jonathan Martinez.
Jonathan Martinez, 5745 Skylark. I had a training today, so I didn't come as prepared as I usually am, right? And so that training got canceled. So I'm just here talking about no smoking in parks, the city ordinance that we're trying to push to all city parks. Currently, just Blucher Park right now has in the ordinance that it says smoking is unlawful at that park. We're gearing up for our second annual community cleanup, where last year we went to 7 different parks. We collected over 3,300 cigarettes butts at these different parks. In December, I actually went to Blucher Park, and I actually went and cleaned up over there on my own, and I only found like 10 cigarette butts, and I found like 2 lighters and whatnot. And I believe that's because there's already that ordinance there within the city. So people know that they're not allowed to smoke there. You know, whenever they come by, there's verbiage, there's a sign that says, you know, no smoking at this park. And so what you have in front of you are examples of different cities that have implemented this no smoking ordinance within their city. Some cities haven't put it in the ordinance. They just have signs there to help people know to be considerate of others that are in the park, right? So even if it's not an ordinance change, maybe we can talk to Parks and Rec about just putting signage up, right? That would be huge in holding people accountable. We met with Parks and Rec Advisory Committee in August. They approved a resolution to pass this. No smoking in parks to y'all to see if you think that this is something that should be, addressed and talked about. And so Parks and Rec staff, they cannot do this on their own. They do a great job keeping our parks clean, beautifying them and things like that. And so, but these tiny cigarette butts they're not biodegradable because they contain plastic. They can't pick up all these thousands of cigarette butts that we collect each year, right? And so we're asking to help them in saving costs by putting this signage up. Robert Dodd said that there's money in for signage and things like that, and so that's something that we can look into. Let's see. Currently, the ordinance within Corpus Christi also does not have anything that says anything about e-cigarettes or vapes within the ordinance. Right now, it says smoke or smoking means inhaling, exhaling, or burning any lighted cigar, cigarette, pipe, or other lighted tobacco product of any form. It says nothing about e-cigarettes. So we go into certain areas and people are vaping still in bars and things like that. And so we know that smoking isn't allowed in some places, but the fact that people can hide vapes so easily, it should be regulated. And so we go talk to schools, principals and all that, and our youth are picking these things up and they're vaping in schools. And Carroll High School, brand new, beautiful school, right? It's having issues because of these vapes. So if we can ban these, if we can look into this at our parks, that would be huge. I think that's all I have. Oh, one more thing, if I can get there. On your picture, there's a QR code. The city of Phoenix in Arizona has this policy already in place to where they're banning smoking. And so check out that QR code. You can see what they're doing over there. It even gives them quit sites, right? Someone at a park can scan that QR code to help them, whatever resources they're looking for to help with quitting smoking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Norma Villa. You'll wait? Okay. And then I think that'll take us to 3 WebEx public comment. Is that correct, Ms. Huerta?
Yes, ma'am. The first
Oh, I'm
WebEx.
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Rachel Caballero, I think you're signed up for WebEx. Would you like to do it in person? Come on up.
Rachel Caballero, 522 Hancock. Happy New Year, new me, new y'all, hopefully. Just kidding, I'm the same. Thank you for being here, elected community members and taxpayer-funded employees. I'm here to talk about the leak from the Port of Victoria and Flint Hills. There's one of your cohorts was on the radio this morning saying that the media made a bigger deal about this leak than what it is, considering that it involved 5 counties and we could smell it from Corpus Christi, Rockport, Portland, Ingleside, all the way to Victoria. I'd say that's kind of a big deal. And I drove through Victoria on Sunday and arrived to Portland, and the burning of the eyes, the headaches, but I don't think that anybody on this panel really cares about public safety or the health of ourselves. A few of you do, take that back. Also, the comment was made, there's no danger to the environment. If people are having massive headaches and they can't see, I'd call that a danger to the environment. I'm hoping this new year we have some council members that will start using some common sense, in all honesty. Second, I want to talk about desal. I'm about to issue something to the public to let them see where you guys would like to put the 5 proposed desalination plants and how they're going to impact our community. 5 desalination plants in our bay that you all, except for maybe 3 of you, want to put in our bay. It will destroy tourism. It's going to destroy our way of life here. You can say goodbye to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, the USS Lexington, the Texas State Aquarium, any fishing at Cole Park Pier, Indian Point Pier. It's a little disheartening to sit here and come here every Tuesday and not understand how you guys do not know that this is going to be a detrimental impact to our community. And we refuse to become an industrial dumping ground like Beaumont, Pasadena, Deer Park, and all those other cities that have been completely destroyed by greed, corrupt politicians, and industry. We are not a petrochemical town. Some of you have turned us into that, but that wasn't by choice, it was by force. We are a community, and we will replace you all one at a time until you all understand this. None of us have homes at Corpus Christi Lake or other places. This is our home, and we're gonna fight for it.
Thank you, Ms. Caballero. Okay, Ms. Huerta?
Okay, so at this time, we'll do WebEx video virtual commenters. The first person is Sharon Delsus.
Hi, Shireen Delsu, 6030 Tapestry. Please play video.
I am so happy we just completed the most amazing group bike ride here in Austin with Corpus Christi city officials. We have a consultant, we have 2 city council members, 2 city staff, and plenty of citizen advocates like myself. And I am just so thrilled to see the beautiful bike network they have here, protected bike lanes, beautiful trails. We had so much fun, and the perspective of biking has changed for many people here. Corpus Christi is working on a micromobility plan, so it's really important to have first-hand knowledge, not just looking at blueprints, sitting in cubicles. You need to see it for yourself and see how it works for people. Coming here while making a micromobility plan is a really good idea. And what better way to learn about protected bike lanes than to go to one of the best cities in America for bike lanes. Austin is only a 3-hour trip from from Corpus Christi. So while you're making a micromobility plan in Corpus Christi, why not go to Austin, just 3 hours away, to get the inspiration from one of the best cities in biking in America? If only we had city manager, mayor, other city council members, and more staff. We should have had more engineers. We should have had the parks person. We should have had the MPO. These people would have been great for this group bike ride, for the observation, so we can have a shared vocabulary, understand what's going on in Austin, what's working, what's not working. And Bike Texas is a nonprofit organization that specializes in this. They've helped other cities doing the same thing. So Corpus Christi, please accept their help, and we will have such success with this micromobility plan. This is a plan that they make once in a decade. So thanks for watching, and I hope that this micromobility plan is a success.
I just want to add, a new mobility plan is being made right now, and the staff contributing to the plan, the planners, the parks, they showed interest in going to the mobility tour, but I heard it was actually the city manager that banned staff from going to it. And being stuck in cubicles, studying blueprints, or even observing from your car isn't enough. That's old-fashioned way of management. Experiential learning is critical for successful planning, and we do not want to repeat the mistakes in the past, in the last mobility plan. So please, city manager, allow the staff critical in contributing to this bike plan to observe with actual bikes in the top bike city in America. It's only 3 hours away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Del Seuss. Next, we have Julie Rogers.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Ms.
Ready?
Rogers. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
My name's Julie Rogers. I live in District 1 in Uptown. I wasn't going to make public comment today, but I had a great walk in Uptown this morning, and I've done a couple of more loops because there's a lot of unhoused neighbors in my community. I talked to them about the weather. I think you all know, I know the city watches the weather just like you do the reservoirs, but we need you to act on the problem that's going to come soon in a week. It's going to be below freezing on Monday. It's going to go down to 32, and that cold front blows in. It's going to be very windy. It's going to be 26 degrees on Tuesday night and 34 on Wednesday. We do not have enough shelter for our unhoused people. I've lived in my neighborhood since 2017. Well, we bought our house here, but before that. But in the last 6 years, we've had 2 people die from the cold. One at Tonkawa and Coleman, the other at PMI. They just found them frozen in the morning. Please don't let that happen again, especially as we start January. We know that the winter's coming. We celebrate Dr. King. It always comes in right around his day, and I'm glad it is a day of service, and I've always commended you all for shutting the city down and letting the city employees off. But let's do something that day and take care of our unhoused neighbors. I know I support the Free Store, and they'll be out getting hand warmers to folks and blankets, and a lot of other groups will. There are groups in town that do that, but that's not enough. And also, remember in the Constitution, the 8th Amendment, you can't punish people if they're out there with tents or blankets and there's nowhere to go. Also, I wanted to remind folks that we should be signing up for the point in time training. You can do that and get more information from the Texas Homeless Issues Partnership. I haven't heard anything announced during this meeting yet. Email cctxhip@gmail to register and to get more information. The federal funding depends on that. And for our unhoused neighbors, we don't have enough money in our local budget, so we depend on the federal government, just like we depend on the Constitution of the United States. Dr. King talked about this all the time. The reason he did was because African Americans were not represented. We still have lots of underrepresented people, but the Constitution helps to solve those problems. I'd like to also remind people not only about the 8th Amendment, but the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech. The library patrons have freedom of speech. Maybe there's no book banning going on, but it is also violates freedom of speech to move books, relocate books, or rape books. So same thing, different name. On the back of your library card, it clearly states, I accept responsibility for materials borrowed on this card. You can't ask for more parental rights than that. look at the books your children are checking out. If you don't want them to have the book, don't
Thank
check
you, Ms.
it out.
Rogers.
Thank you.
Your time's up. Thank you so much. The last speaker is Lydia Ponce. Ms. Ponce, on your form, you listed that you are not a city resident. Is that correct?
Correct, but we're developing a community center with the work that I do with the Society of Native Nations.
Okay. Well, ma'am, we do have a policy that non-residents of the city are given 1 minute worth of time to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 1 minute, ma'am. All right?
Okay, I'm going to try to get it in there. Thank you.
All right.
Lydia
Go ahead.
Ponce, Quechua, and Mayo, and I'm calling in from the unceded territory of the Tongva people, my boss's people, Frankie Arona, Society of Native Nations. I'm impressed with the development that you are having in Corpus Christi with the community improvements. However, I don't think you'll be able to continue as a tourist destination, as mentioned before. We always look to all the fruits as Indigenous people. All the fruits of the world belong to 7 generations forward. But the petrochemical build-out in the 5 desalination plants, there we can identify neglect and abuse of the natural resources of nature and our natural relatives. Texas oil industry can no longer placate building parks right outside the refineries, which no one uses. I've been to Corpus Christi several times. I don't see people picnicking or even using the bicycle lanes or the swings. We're calling upon the relationship with the local tribal people, with this commission, with this city council, as the tourist approach for visiting cultures via calendar dates instead of a real way of life. Because after all, city council, the Texas motto is friendship.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you very much, Ms. Ponce. Your time is up.
Let's work together.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor, that concludes the public comment period.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. And Ms. Villa, where is she? Norma? Yeah. What item was it that you wanted to make a comment on? Oh, next meeting. Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go straight to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anybody would like to pull, items 5 through 17, to consider individually?
Mayor, just for discussion point, I'd like to pull number 11.
Number 1?
Number 11.
Number 11. Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to pull number 8.
Number 8.
I'd like to pull number 5.
Number 5. Anything else? Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items number 11, 8, and 5. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. The motion carries. Okay, great. We'll come back to those. I'm going to go ahead and go back to item number 3. Okay. So item number 3 is the consideration of an appeal of a decision of the Building Standards Board to demolish a dilapidated substandard structure located at 1214.5-20 North Staple Street, owned by Priscilla Tryon Cambrick. City Attorney Miles Risley will introduce the item and review the process being used for the appeal. A representative from Code Enforcement is also available to respond to any questions. Mr. Risley.
We have Tracy here to introduce the item.
Okay, Ms. Cantu. All right.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Tracy Cantu, Assistant Director of Development Services and Code Compliances under the division under my purview. So I bring today the Building Standards Board appeal for the order to demolish the dilapidated structure located at 1214.5 through 1220 North Staple Street, which is owned by Priscilla Tryon Cambrick. And so we will. The board ordered this building demolished after Code Enforcement began a case back in July of 2022, notifying the owner of her responsibility to repair or demolish the
the owner did not comply with that after receiving the notice, and so therefore the code enforcement scheduled this property for the Building Standards Board hearing. The initial hearing was in July of 2023. The case was tabled 4 times and then heard in September 28th of 2023, and at that time the board ordered the structure demolished, and at that point the owner appealed that decision. So at this point we'll allow the appellate to bring you their information, and then I'll stand by for any questions regarding the appeal.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. So at this time, Ms. Cambrick is going to come to the podium to make your presentation to the council, and that's limited to 3 minutes.
All right, we're ready. Thank you. Good morning. As you all know, my name is Matt Manning. I represent Ms. Tryon Cambrick. I'll represent to you, I'm glad we started this meeting with referencing Dr. King, because if you know Dr. King, his work was done in coalition. It was not done solely by himself. And I represent to you that there is a coalition of important organizations in this community that are behind this building. Not only the Texas Historical Society has determined that this is eligible for preservation, the Nueces County Historical Society has determined that this building should be preserved, as has the Nueces County Historical Commission. I spoke to Amanda Kowalski this morning, and she indicated that both her and Kathy Weimer are behind the preservation of this building, and provided me a more than 1-inch thick folder full of research about this building. This building was one of the targets of the city's own sought grant last year, the Reconnecting Communities grant, wherein the city was seeking money to preserve historic buildings. I will represent to you, I understand the city has an ordinance. The thing is, the ordinance has a spirit and a letter. The letter of the law is not applicable to a building that is the sole standing structure of this import to the Black community, particularly because this building stands by itself. Code enforcement has not once presented a single community or citizen complaint regarding the building. And we'll represent, the building is not in great condition. However, it is the kind of building that we should recognize we have the impetus to save in this community, and that the coalition of people who are tasked with doing that have said we should save this building. At the last meeting, we presented to you letters from both the Texas Historical Commission and Dance Hall Preservation Incorporated, both of which implored the City Council to allow Ms. Tryon Cambrick an opportunity to preserve the building. And we're asking that the City Council find whatever means it thinks appropriate to allow her time in earnest to work to save this building, the same way buildings like the Chamberlain Building have been saved, Heritage Park, a number of other important cultural buildings around the city. And I'll represent to you, this is not a building that is in the midst of a packed community where people are complaining about it every day. It is instead by itself on the periphery of the community in a part of town that unfortunately has been historically, economically disinvested. Considering that, we'd ask that you join the coalition of groups that deem it appropriate to preserve this building. At this time, I'll cede the time to my client.
Good afternoon. My name is Priscilla Tryon Cambrick, 2814 Rogers Street, the owner of 1214 and a half through 20 North Staples Street. I am before you today requesting or asking that you do not demolish the historical building at that location. It has significant value. Okay. Okay, it has significant value not only to the African Americans on the north side of town. There was Hispanics on that side of town as Anglos that went to this club, and there were restaurants of all sorts there. So it's not only a Black thing, would you say, it's a community thing. And I'm asking that the building not be demolished, that it be restored for the city of Corpus Christi and African Americans on the north side, which there's not many over there left, but I'm sure they will come back on that side of town once the building is restored. Thank you.
Okay.
My client did incur the cost of putting a fence around the building at the city's behest, and also ensuring that there could not be a trespass entry by vagrants. She has incurred that cost. and we would ask for the opportunity to, with the City Council's blessing, have a short period of time for her to continue investigating in earnest alongside these coalition groups to try to revitalize this building because it is of the utmost importance to this community, both Black and at large.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Council members, do you have any questions or comments? Councilman Roy, I'm so sorry.
Mayor, if I can, Tracy was going to show the rest of her presentation. She let the applicant speak first, but she did have a presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Let's
Tracy.
finish that, and then we'll come back to questions.
All right, so if we could start the video. So Mayor, in response to this, so the property's been owned for 20 years, and while we appreciate the intent to try to preserve this, but the owner has not made the attempt to begin that preservation process until it was brought to the board's attention of the substandard condition of this building. And in the 20 years that I've been a code enforcement officer, certified code enforcement professional, this building is one of the most severely compromised buildings that I've ever seen. This is a balloon frame building, stick frame building, which with the collapse of this roof, has caused the building to lose its support. And in every significant wind event, rain event that we have had, the building continues to deteriorate further and further. Yesterday we had high winds, and this drone footage was shot last week to show the deterioration and the extent of the collapse of the roof, which again compromises the overall framing structural integrity of this building. And this portion of the building, just since September, has further collapsed in on itself, which again forces more weight and more pressure on those outer walls, which, in my opinion, creates a dangerous situation. Even if this is in an isolated area, it is still adjacent, just one street over from occupied properties. And in fact, while I was out visiting the property this morning, I had a visit by Ms. Genevieve Gonzalez, who is a known property owner in the city. She owns properties just one street over, and she says with these wind events that the tin from the roof will fly out and has come across and into her property. It's with the cold weather that we are expecting, this building is not secure, as the owner has stated. There was a fence that was placed up next to a stairwell that leads to the second floor. However, there is still an opening, so there is no perimeter fence around the building as was requested. This was not completed 100%. There is access from the rear of the building, which still gives you access to the second floor. The second floor is not secured. That area, which is where the dance hall is at. That is the area of interest as far as the preservation, but that is the most deteriorated area of this building, and it is dangerous. And if we have unhoused individuals who access this building, they are at risk of getting hurt. There's a risk of a fire happening, and these individuals risking significant injury, possibly death, and being in an isolated area, it's going to take a while for someone to get to them or to know that they've been injured or hurt. And so there's that risk of fire, risk of continued deterioration of this property, and affecting the neighboring properties that are still there. And there are people passing by this building on a daily basis. And again, I'm fearful for somebody to continue to gain access to this building, even at this point, as we were out there this morning, there were people going by. So as far as the appeal and stating that the board made errors, I don't believe that they have demonstrated that there's been errors that have been made. The board has considered and gave ample time for the appellate. Again, the board tabled this property 4 times over this last year to give them additional time to come forth with a plan for renovation and restoration. And it was on September where the board ordered the structure to be demolished. Again, at no point prior to that, the case was started in a year in advance of taking it to the board. This preservation consideration, this interest was not brought forward. So I believe that the appellant has had ample time to pursue this. They could have pursued the preservation at any point in time. Those letters that they do discuss, those letters were sent to city staff in our effort to, at my own behest, I guess, kind of almost shooting myself in the foot. We're trying to help the appellate to provide them with some guidance. And so that information, and while we understand that that's clear, there is interest in the historic significance of this property, but structurally and in consideration of the public's health and safety and welfare, that is my job, is to protect that, is to do what we need to do, our due diligence, to look at structures that have become dilapidated and deteriorated to this point where it's now a danger to the area, it's dangerous to other properties, it's dangerous to persons. And it has not been secured in a fashion to keep it from being that way. And even with that, again, in the winds today, you could hear this building creaking and cracking, and it's a matter of time before something else gives way on this structure, and again, it causes further damage or damage to other properties nearby. Let me see. And again, we appreciate this effort. But again, that doesn't change the fact of how structurally deteriorated this property is. And again, I don't believe that they demonstrated that the Building Standards Board was erroneous. They did consider everything that was presented to them by the property owner and by the city. And the board saw that this structure, does pose a threat to the public, and they ordered this building demolished. This shows the case history, and regardless of whether the complaints have come from the public or come at through proactive measures by code enforcement, again, our efforts are to protect the public health and safety. And in most instances, yes, the owner has been compliant. However, as we've reached this point of the situation, they have not completely complied with what the board's requests were. They had not provided the engineering report that was requested. They had not provided that they have means to restore this building. And I believe we can demonstrate with the history that code enforcement has had with this property that they've had ample time to do so and have not been able to produce those means. So. Let me see if you. This is just showing you the overhead of the properties and the proximity of other buildings and other occupied properties within that area. And as I stated, the buildings that are street over have had items from this building during high winds have come off, become projectiles, and landed into these other properties that are a street away. Some additional photos. And again, these photos were presented in September, and there has been further deterioration since then, as was indicated in the drone video. So I'll stand by for any questions that you all have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cantu. Remind me, how big is this building? How many square feet? Roughly?
I'm drawing a blank on that at the moment. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. We can get that.
Okay.
Councilman Roy.
Defer my questions.
Deferred. Okay.
At this point.
Okay. A little later or for the applicant?
No, if anybody else.
Oh, I see. Yes. Anyone else? Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mayor. Tracy, I was trying to look at the picture you had there, the little motion picture you had. I was trying to determine where the perimeter fence is located.
So, if you can see there, if you could, right there, there's a fence, and it comes around the stairwell, but that's as far as it goes. And so the back side of the building is, there's a fence back there, but there's a gap in the fence that's accessible. I was out the building today with the code compliance supervisors, and they were able to access the building from the rear and go up the staircase, which led to a door that is also open and unsecured.
So
and
there's no fence there along the
There's no
side?
perimeter fence, no, sir.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you, that's all I had.
Ms. Cantu, and I guess it's more for Ms. Cambrick or Mr. Manning. So why hasn't it been taken care of?
Well, first, I do want to correct the record. In August of 2023, we provided an engineer's report. You should actually have it in the materials that I provided to you. So that's patently not true to say there was no engineer's report. There was a partial fence put up. And I will submit to the city council, we have to be careful. We don't prophylactically enforce things that haven't yet happened. The idea that somebody could theoretically access a property is kind of an absurd basis upon which to enforce things. That's why we have the Corpus Christi Police Department who enforces the penal code when that actually happens. Ms. Cambrick did put up a fence to ensure that there was not access to the building, but as you see from the front facade of the building, there's no access there at all. You can't get inside. So even if there are points people could find access to, if you look at that ledger of lists of instances that Ms. Cantu showed, most of the time my client was compliant. As it relates to the preservation issue, that's a newly discovered issue once we started investigating how to preserve this building. But in terms of fixing the roof and some of the other issues, frankly, what happened is she purchased this property in 2003, I believe, and there was no issues whatsoever for the better part of 20 years. Once she began being cited, then obviously we had to respond with what code enforcement wanted her to do, and she did that substantially. And to that end, I want to submit to you all that, yes, this was tabled 4 times. At one point, John Solberg, who's a member of the Building Standard Board, actually motioned to table this indefinitely. Part of the issue was she wanted to go through the preservation process, and particularly the preservation process as it relates to preserving historically disadvantaged community buildings. There's a program with the Texas Historical Commission called the Untold Markers Program. It only opens in October. So for much of the time we were appearing in front of the Building Standards Board, we were continuing to communicate to them our intention is once this opens in October to go ahead and go through the process. But I couldn't counsel my client in good faith to go ahead and start spending money in the event that y'all decided that she needed to demolish it. And what actually happened in September is I was traveling for work, and I sent a letter asking them to continue the case. They chose not to do that, and they made an election without either of us being present. But at the prior meetings, we not only presented our intention to have a preservation plan, but there was an intention to table it. It was tabled it a couple of times, and at one point it was sought to be done indefinitely. So I tell you that to say, even the Building Standards Board recognized that preserving this under the historical preservation process is a long process. It's not a thing that happens immediately. And she needs the opportunity to go through that process in earnest, just like a number of other buildings in this community have. We recognize that obviously there is an ordinance and you have to adhere to that ordinance, but when we're talking about a building that is one of the last remaining structures that is so important to the Black community here, she should have an opportunity to work in earnest to preserve it. What she's been doing at this point is trying to placate code enforcement because there has been a targeted enforcement on her building, but notwithstanding that, now that there is momentum and a coalition behind preserving this, we'd ask that you allow us to have some time to do that. And I will submit to you that tonight, the Historical Commission is meeting at 5:15, and it was indicated to me they will likely be discussing this building and some of the efforts that they can lend to making sure it's preserved. So we'd ask that you consider at least a short stay to allow us to really begin that process in earnest.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Cantu.
So I'd like to add that what was sent to the board, what was presented to the board, we consider that to be a visual inspection, but not a engineer's report, which would further give description and detail regarding the various structural systems, the foundation, load-bearing walls, the framing, the columns, the beams, the floor system, the roof system. So there was a visual inspection that was done, and we did receive that report. And even in that visual inspection, the consultant recommended demolition of the second story, which is where the dance hall was located. The dance hall is the point of interest for the historic preservation. So even in this report, the recommendation is to demolish that second story and reconstruct and create a one-story building, which you would have to basically reconstruct the building. You have to add framing, you have to add structural supports, because again, this is a balloon frame building, and once that roof has begun to deteriorate, you are losing that structural integrity of the building in itself. And so then to take out the second story, you eliminate this point of historic preservation, which is the recommendation from the visual inspection that the owner provided.
Okay, Councilman Klein.
Yeah, in looking at the drone footage, I don't agree that this building is structurally unsound. The drone footage indicates to me, from what I can see from the drone images, that by this logic, if we were to demolish this building, by that logic, the Ritz Theater should have been demolished 20 years ago because the roof was gone. It wasn't. I think that we're all better for that. Later on this year, I'm going to have a chance to travel to our sister city in France. And In that community, they've got a church that is 1,000 years old. We don't get structures like that by knocking things down after just a few decades. I would be in favor of sustaining the appeal and providing additional time for Ms. Tryon Cambrick to bring this building into code. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment? Question, Councilman Pusley?
You know, I continue to struggle with what is it that you're going to save. I drove out to this building and looked around and looking at the pictures, I don't know what it is that you would save, other than maybe there's some concrete pilings there that might be salvageable to start a new structure on top of, but the roof is gone. The timbers that I saw that I could observe, most of are weather rotted beyond repair. So I don't know what it is you're trying to save. And so I think this is pouring good money after bad. Anyway, just my opinion.
Council, I apologize, but while this video is playing, if you take note of where the marquee sign is that marquee sign is weight on that outer wall. And I took some photos today, they're on my phone, Councilman, that does show that there is some bowing in that wall, and it has continued to bow outward because of the weight that marquee sign is placed on it. And again, due to this building shifting and moving under its weight. And again, it's through the lack of support. And granted, the walls are still up today, but there is clear evidence, and it's worse from the time that we started the case to this point, where you're seeing this bow and this drag from the weight of items on the building on the walls that eventually they are going to give way, and that is cause, and the risk of that danger is enough to take action on this building. We don't want to wait until something bad happens. We don't want to wait until somebody accesses this building and starts a fire or is injured. We have city ordinances that require vacant buildings to be secured so that it prevents entry by unauthorized persons, so that we prevent criminal activities from happening, we prevent fires, we prevent injury. So there is the ordinance, and that's what code enforcement is charged with. The enforcement of that is looking after that public health and safety issues.
Councilman Roy.
I want to make a comment, and I can't do this without maybe just give me a second to go through a little story, but my wife and I were traveling. I don't remember where, but we came upon a sign that basically said, "See the Russian fort." So there was a fort that was built and during World War II and operated without anybody in the United States knowing that it was there, right? So we thought, okay, that would be pretty cool to see. So we followed the map and the directions to get to this fort. I forget the name of it, but when we got there, after about 30 minutes, we figured out that when we got there, the only thing that was there was a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, a number 5, a number 6, and then there was a marquee that said, this is where the kitchen used to be, and this is where the captain's quarters was, and this is where, and it had a historical marker. I say that because, unfortunately, there's a lot of buildings, there's a lot of structures that have historical significance that don't make it through the test of time. Therefore, we see those historical markers. And, one of the things I look at is that sign on this building. I think that sign is really significant. I think when you take a look at what our museum did in terms of looking at the Galvan Ballroom and telling the story behind that, I really do believe the story of this building needs to be told, and anything that can be, whether we tear it down or not, needs to be salvaged and recognized as the significance of this building. The other thing comes to mind is the Hector P. Garcia original office that he had over on the west side, right? That building, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not considered historical right now, right? It doesn't have a historical marker. I don't think it does. Matter of fact, I often wondered, and I asked questions years ago when I was in leadership Corpus Christi, how come we haven't went back and preserved that building because of its significance? And I was told that it's cost prohibitive, and that building's in a lot better shape than what we're dealing with now. So I think that sometimes, you know, I understand the historical significance, but I think, unfortunately, that time has passed. We had 20 years to be able to do something here, and, you know, as one of the dilemmas as a council member is that, yes, there is the potential, and I understand that you can't govern life just based on the possibility that something could happen. But if you think about it, and you go out to the beach, and the conditions are bad, right? They put a red flag up there. Nothing's happened yet, but there's a red flag.
Correct.
Because the city is trying to be responsible for what could happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Do we have, Councilman Barrera?
Here, and I guess this could be for either the property owner or I'm sure the building's not insured. Nobody's going to insure it. So is there any liability insurance whatsoever in the event that something were to happen? Okay. What's the property appraised at? $63,000. I'll say that. That's what they said. Okay. Has there been any? I guess my questions are all for the property owner. So why don't you guys come up? Yeah. Has there been an estimate of the cost for preservation?
No, not at this point.
Okay, and then the engineer's report was delivered when?
August.
In August?
16th. It's dated August 16th, so around that time.
This past August,
yes,
August 2023, okay. And I guess we're looking to all this support to look for a source of funds. Right? We don't have anything targeted at this time.
Well, there's a patchwork of funds, but no, I mean, some of like matching grants where you put up dollar for dollar, you know, what you get with the grants. Others are just straight up grants. But frankly, you know, it's kind of asinine to do that if what's going to happen is it's going to be demolished. So
Mr. Manning, I'm sorry. Yeah, pull that microphone. There you go.
Thank you, thank you. Where we've been is really just trying to get the time to actually do that. We've investigated the possibilities, but there's no way to go through them in earnest before, you know, the time comes up again for us to account in front of the Building Standards Board, which is why the member of the Building Standards Board suggested an indefinite tabling, or at least a long enough tabling for us to go through the process. We've talked to a number of consultants, both in Austin and other places in the United States and in Texas, who have, you know, told us how they could help shepherd us through the process. But to be clear, we have not gotten a pot of money yet that we can present to you as to be applied to this building.
And Counselor, when did they engage your services?
Honestly, I'm not sure of that. I have to look back, but at least
roughly
before the last year, was it 2000? No, I think it was the beginning of 2023.
Okay.
I think we started going to the meeting sometime early then, but I don't want to be dishonest with you.
No worries, just roughly. Gosh, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. Okay, so yeah, I had talked about the funding. That's the questions that I asked. So there's no source of funds at this time.
If I may, Councilman, I
Yes,
think
sir.
one thing that would be important would be for you to be presented with evidence of the inside of the building. What code enforcement has shown you is purely the roof. It's our belief that the inside of the building may be substantially more salvageable than is being represented. And I think it would be important for you to at least see what that's looking like. Now, the fact that the roof is in poor shape does not mean that there may not be water intrusion, but I think what would be important is for us to apprise exactly how much of it may be salvageable inside, including the dance hall. I know that they have, you know, supposed that it's not salvageable, but really the crux of this is the roof. And it seems to me that the city council could be responsible, hearkening back to Councilman Roy's comments, by giving a little time to determine the actual extent of it. I think the reality of it is optically it looks bad and the roof looks bad, but there has not been an examination of just how structurally sound the building is. And until that happens, you cannot render this building substandard purely off of how it looks optically. There are a number of optically bad buildings in Corpus Christi that don't seem to be the sole target of this targeted enforcement. So at the very least, to be responsible, we'd ask that the city council look at the inside of the building and have an appraisal to that end to determine how much of it is salvageable.
Yeah, just one more thing. So he caught me up to where I wanted. Okay, so I guess, here's my dilemma. I mean, my heart's with you. I said it last month. And the challenge is that it seems that the building, at least what code enforcement says in the pictures, that there needs to be more done to secure the perimeter. And I guess that's the thing. The dilemma that we have is the safety of any homeless people, particularly in this cold weather, that would seek shelter just to be able to find some place that's free of the wind or free of some of the elements. And then I guess there's a property behind it. Is that abandoned also?
Yes.
Yeah, directly behind it. Okay, there's a street over. So that one's abandoned also.
And most of the houses, on the backside are abandoned as well.
Okay.
The homes?
Yeah, there's no
It's boarded up houses.
there's no
and,
resident living there.
No.
And see, that's really my biggest challenge is that I'm just worried about the safety of individuals that we have to represent that aren't represented whatsoever. And if should anybody go in there, and you had indicated that I guess she spent it was $10,000 to $12,000 for the fencing before, or something.
No. She did incur costs, and I don't think it was to the extent of $10,000 to $12,000.
$2,000, I don't know that if there's, because that's really the biggest challenge I have is it's just not secure. So I know that was the thing. What is it? Because once again, if a homeless person were to enter into there, and that would obviously be catastrophic. So, but go ahead, sir.
If I may, Councilman, you kill a fly with a fly swatter, not a sledgehammer, and we do not need to knock down this building to suture some of the gaps in what we believe the condition is now to the extent of where it would be secured. I would represent to you that if you found it appropriate, you could tell her to secure it to some extent that the city council thought was appropriate, and she could take the efforts to do that. But part of the idea of something being dangerous is predicated on who it may be dangerous to. And if there's no one occupied in the area, obviously that ameliorates the danger issue. But beyond the danger issue, we also have to look at the fact that this building is out by itself, and you don't